And to some extent, in very recent years, the guys who think we should talk about the fall of the Roman Empire have made some gains by pointing out a lot of economic dislocation that accompanied the events that we usually refer to as the fall of the Roman Empire. So it certainly does look, as though something fell apart from the political unity of the Roman Empire in the 5th century. However, in some ways, it does make better sense to talk about the transformation of the Roman Empire, because it was still around and indeed recovered a lot of its own territory in the 6th century. And it had what a famous historian, Francis Yates, called a phantasmagorical existence. People, couldn't bring themselves to believe that this empire that everybody had lived with for hundreds of years was over, and so they kind of maintained a sort of fiction that somehow or other it still existed around, sort of encompassing all the individual states that succeeded it in the western part of the empire. So in a way, it does, there's a sense in which it definitely makes better sense to speak of the transformation. And Christianity obviously played a big part in the transformation of the empire. I mean, I don't think it's right to speak of Christianity with barbarism causing the fall of the Roman Empire in the way that Gibbon rather did. But I certainly think, that the Christian empire was a different beast, was a different kind of setup from what it had been formerly. And, when the emperor gave up his divine status, as everybody knows, the first emperor to do that was Constantine early in the 4th century, and then from the late 4th century and the Emperor Theodosius onwards, all emperors forewent that divine status. That was a tremendous sacrifice, for them to make, and really put the allegiance of the subjects of the empire on a new experimental footing that no one had ever even thought of, let alone tried before. And I think it's really interesting, therefore, to ask why that. And I think, perhaps one of the big deficiencies of Gibbon's work was that he didn't really show any interest in why that was. He really thought Christianity was pretty much a load of rubbish, and that it wasn't worth asking why people accepted it. But of course, they did accept it intellectually and emotionally. And why emperors should have backed this religion, which emphasized peace, which usually, if you're running an empire, you're thinking all the time about war rather than peace. And B, celibacy, which would reduce your fighting forces. It's very odd, that they went for Christianity in those circumstances. And I think in a way that is still an unresolved problem.